On three for the boys.
For the boys. Okay.
For the boys.
I can't see the side of my face.
Hello, boys.
Is it fixed? My bangs are not. Wait, this one's stuck or no?
This one's no. They're both
Okay. I think I just feel a hair stuck, but it's not. Okay.
Let's talk about boys.
Let's
Let's talk
big
about
pics
sex,
and pee-pee.
baby. That's what I like to talk about.
I know. Let's do a fun one next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
talk about shit.
All right, guys. On three. 1, 2, 3.
Hi.
I went like this. Hi. Instead of like this, like I always do. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Be Uplifted.
Ooh, I got it.
We got it this time. So our panel got smaller because people are sick of our shit. No, I'm just kidding.
They couldn't hang.
They couldn't hang.
So the theme has been going like, Jasmine's like, oh, I'm not in a relationship no more. And then she's like, oh, I'll find somebody. See, now we're sitting together.
What is love?
Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. Ooh,
Wow,
good
perfect
together.
segue.
Wow, that was really good. Actually, that was a perfect segue.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So today we'll be talking about. See, Lonnie's not here to do the drum roll that she always does. Right? That was good. So today we're going to be talking about how the traumas of our previous relationships have paved the way into our new relationships. And I can still speak on this. I know everyone's going to be like, you're married. But
That's true.
a lot of our trauma from our past, because we didn't do the dating thing, went into the marriage. So I can speak on this too. So take it away, Rich.
I think we talked about it briefly I think towards the end of the last podcast. So if you heard it. And I think personally for me, I think a lot of it is just, you don't want to ever be in that space again. You know, and it's like, I don't necessarily want to, and you know, the I guess the most difficult part of dating is even though you think that you've healed, you don't really know until you know. It's like if I hurt my knee playing football, right? I go through rehab, I go through surgery, whatever, then rehab. You don't really know until you're actually on the field.
Especially if you do
Yeah.
that same move again, right?
Yeah,
To see
yeah.
if you're healed or
So
not.
a lot of times, like, you know, when it comes to athletes, they get surgery and then they're back out. They do go through rehab, and that very first year is kind of like, people don't really consider that like a good year because they're always so subconscious about hurting themselves again. There's a lot of
Right.
mental gymnastics going on, and then by the next year, that's when they actually are pretty much back to the
Giving
the-
it their same.
yeah, the back to their own standards of performance and whatnot. And the same thing with dating. It's like, or getting over a relationship. Like for me, like I always think about like, am I ready? I think I'm ready. But then you get there and you're like, what if I'm not?
Yeah.
And I think that's the scariest part of it all.
So do you guys, because I know that everyone's on this panel has been in a very long-term marriage, right? Everyone has been here married once.
Yes.
And then now you guys are single and dating, right? Would you say
Just
that?
single.
I'm just single.
Oh,
Just-
okay.
right.
These two are just single.
Yeah.
Just
This one has still got hope for love over here. So hit him up, guys. Girls, not guys.
Yeah.
So my question is, you know how you said like when you go back into the dating world, you're kind of like scared. You're kind of like precautious because of what happened, just like the sports people, right? But then you meet a lot of people that break up and they go like they bounce from like person to person to person, almost like rebounding, you know?
Right.
Do you think that that doesn't happen anymore, or that that's like less of a thing because you went through marriage? Like, were you would you jump back into things when you weren't married before? Like, was it easier for you? Like when it was just like boyfriend, girlfriend, then you break up, did you still have that same trauma, or is it really the marriage that like really stamped that trauma?
You know, after my divorce, I went through a lot of like just a lot of like just self-evaluation because I knew at some point that there has to be more. Like, is it me? You know, so because a lot of times, like with I guess for my case, I was blamed for everything. Everything was my fault, right? And there's some validity to it, right? But if I went to just go, if I were just to negate everything about that and say, oh no, that fucking bitch was wrong, and I moved into the next relationship, I'm technically I've never fixed that problem.
Right.
Right. So that problem is not necessarily something that's just organic to that one relationship. It could be something that's actually problematic going forward.
Right.
So it's the same, like we've talked about, like that example I always said, like if you're a chick and every dude you date, or if you're a guy and every chick you date ends up cheating on you, there's only one common denominator.
Yep.
Right? It's you. So what are you doing? Or, you might say, no, I'm not doing anything, but really step back and push aside the ego and say, did at some point you decide you neglected your partner? Is there some way that you're actually not fulfilling some sort of the bargain, that they're going and finding another partner to replace you?
I think part of the accountability with that too, because I've been one of those people, right? Like I've talked about this before. I've almost been cheated on by every single person that I've been with. And as you said, you have to take accountability. So I've taken the step back and gone, well, what is my problem? Like why? Because I feel like I'm very attentive to my significant other. And for me personally, taking accountability was not, what am I doing wrong? But it was the person that I keep choosing. What I'm doing wrong is I keep choosing fucking busters. You know what I mean? So maybe it's not necessarily me that's doing something wrong. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but in that case, the cheating over and over again was because I was choosing men that were shitty, and that's my own fault.
But also it's not, it could also be like just letting yourself go. You get comfortable in a relationship and all of a sudden you stop shaving. I mean, your partner met you at a certain like level, right?
Right.
You always got a haircut and you were like, you were trying to look good to find somebody. Then you get with them. Then all of a sudden, this might be like your shtick. Like this is like your MO. Like all of a sudden, you stop shaving.
Right.
You
look like a hobo.
You grow your hair out.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're like not presentable anymore. So sometimes that could be something.
That too.
And like my thing is that if I was able to fix myself, right? And fixing myself, whether it was like, let's say, just, I don't know, whether it was your image, your hygiene, your weight, whatever it was, if I could fix myself and it fixes the relationship, all well and good.
Right.
But if it doesn't, at least I fixed myself for the next.
Right.
I can't blame I can't carry those same bricks and build the same exact looking house,
Right.
hoping that person will change.
Yeah. So going back to the question though, so do you feel like you were able to kind of like recover and jump into relationships easier before the married thing happened?
Yeah, but then they ended.
Right.
So
you were
basically
carrying
I'm
the
still
same bricks,
I'm still doing the exact same thing. Like, like at some point, like I'll admit it, like, I didn't really it took a lot of like growth to kind of be that provider, that protector. Right? And before that, I could say that I probably wasn't. Like, I would prefer to been like, oh, I'll just be a graphic designer. I'll be the stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
Right. But we also know that there's studies show that most stay-at-home dads have a higher divorce rate than dads that actually bring in the money.
Yeah.
Because
The woman is looking for that provider.
Well, the woman just loses a lot of respect for you too.
Yeah.
So
that's
so when
true.
they lose respect for you in that sense, it's easier for them to stray.
True.
I mean, that's from my experience.
Well,
so,
and that's facts too.
Yeah.
Like if you look it up, guys. Yeah.
yeah. So at the end of the day, it's like, like you say, is it easy to move on now? The problem is, it's like, I don't know until like until I get with somebody, and I'm not talking about the honeymoon stage. I'm talking about like when it's official and we're like 3, 4, 5 months in.
Right.
Do I revert back to that?
True. What about you, Jasmine? In your experience, same question. Like, do you feel like the way you move because of trauma, like how is it different? What is your experience?
I'll say this, like before I left my ex, I did self-reflection because my thing is I didn't want to get a divorce. I was like, no, I have to make this work somehow. So what is it about me? What is it that I'm doing that could cause him to basically treat me the way that he's treating me, right? So I went to therapy. I was reading books. I was doing all this stuff. And I was like, okay, maybe I literally sat down. I was like, maybe if I changed myself, you know, then this could work. And I remember one time, this is when I was really like, okay, you know what, this is it, you know. Like I said, I was going to church when I was like married. I believe in God still to this day, and not saying any of that. But what I'm saying is, like, they had this book called like The Love Language or The Love Dare. It was called The Love Dare.
Oh, I know that book.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this could really help our marriage. We could try and read this, or we could try therapy. We could try all this stuff. Therapy was a no. You know, no, I'm not going to therapy. Okay, cool. Let's try this book. We could read it together, you know, like do all this, blah, blah, blah. So I started reading the book, and I was like, oh, I learned this, that, and the other. I was like, did you read it? No. I was like, oh, okay. Then one day he was just like, I have no motivation to fix this marriage. None. And I was like, I knew then, I was like, nothing I could do at this moment is going to change our situation and where we're at. So that's when I was like, it's time for me to go. So, but I feel like because I already kind of prepared myself. Yeah, there was a lot of hurt there when I left, but when that hurt was gone, I still felt like, okay, I still deserve love. I still deserve this. I deserve to be with somebody. So I'm okay with, you know, finding somebody. And I felt like there's some things that I was kind of like, I don't know, but I felt like I was healed by the time I
Started dating
dating. Well, not dating, but when I got into a serious relationship. Because my last relationship, we were together like 3 years.
So are you similar to Rich, where because of the fact that you were in a very long relationship and it was, you know, with kids and things like that, do you move forward with way more precaution than you did before?
Yeah, I mean, most definitely, but it's more of like, I have my kids and I don't want to let
just
anybody come in. And I honestly, like, I feel like, because I know I've heard this before too, like, men get upset with women who have like kids, and then, like, let's say they get married or something and they step into that stepfather role, and the mom is like, but you're not going to talk to my kids like that. You know what I mean? And I just feel like at this point, I'm not ready for somebody to step into that role for them. I think a lot of it has to do with their dad is still in their lives, number one. And number two, me and him clash when it comes to parenting.
Right.
So I don't know. No, I don't.
In your experience, do you think it's harder to find someone because you hear that stigma where it's like no one's gonna want you because you're older with kids? Do you think that it's harder now?
I think you have to. I feel like
she's all like, now I do. This fucking
no,
bitch.
for real. No, definitely. No, definitely.
Fuck?
I've been told that 3 is too many. Number one, because I have 3 kids, is too many. A lot of times I was, well, how many baby daddies you have? I'm like, it's just one. I was married, you know, like 15 years. Like, this is, you know, you thought we weren't going to have kids at all. So there's that. And then, to be honest, when I don't off top tell people I have kids, not because I'm ashamed of them. It's because I'm not looking for somebody to take care of my kids.
Right.
I want somebody for me. I'm not looking. My kids are taken care of. Like, they have their dad. Like, their dad is in their life, and I'm in their life. They're taken care of all the way around. And I have a son who's going to be an adult. Like, I'm not looking for anybody to take care of my kids. So I don't bring. If they ask me, yes, 100% I have kids, but it's not like, yeah, I got kids and blah, blah, blah. It's not.
But when it does come up, do you see men shy away more from it?
Yeah. And that's why I have to tell them, like, or I ask, is that a problem? I was like, my kids are taken care of. I'm not looking for somebody for them. Like, I feel like I have to explain more. Like, I have one baby daddy, like all this stuff. And it really doesn't matter how many baby daddies you have, but to men, I guess it
matters.
But they can have 5 and you have 1 and it's still a problem, but whatever, that's another topic.
Yeah, that's true. How about you, Vince? What is your experience from like the past trauma and it going into like your new relationships or possibly looking for a relationship? Like, what's your experience and how's it affected you?
Well, something that Jasmine said, I actually feel the same way, but then opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
I'm
she
scared.
was all no, she said you know, like she's had past experiences, but then she still feels that she deserves love, which she does, you know. But I look at it as I have my past things, and I don't deserve to be hurt again. You know what I'm saying? So like mine is opposite. So that's why there's a lot of pushback with me, you know, seeking a relationship. Even if there has been like opportunities and stuff, I'm still more reserved because it's like, well, that's just gonna get in the way of the things that I want to take care of. And you know personally that I have a lot of things that are going on right now that I have to like focus on. And you know, having somebody asking me when we're gonna spend time again and stuff like that, that's just gonna get in the way.
And being mad because you're handling everything.
Yeah.
Else. Yeah. That makes sense.
So yeah, mine is a similar approach, but with the opposite results or whatever.
That makes sense. So what was the biggest lessons that you took out of your previous trauma that has helped you turned it into healing on this panel?
Just take your time. You know, I think that sometimes we're such like I had this like in the
So what kind of traumas led you to that?
Well, in the past, I've always had like this like almost like the hopeless romantic mindset. Like everything, you know, you gotta do this and then do that, and then, but sometimes you almost fool yourself into thinking that that person is gonna be able to do that with you when there's so many other red flags that you're ignoring.
Right.
For me, I think it's just like, you know, you just gotta, I just gotta take, you know, I just take your time, and eventually, hopefully, that one person comes. But you know, like I'm not in a rush to go find that person either.
What about you, Jasmine? What kind of, I mean, obviously, same question to the whole panel. What kind of traumas did you experience that have now led you to like certain ways of healing and thinking?
Definitely don't ignore. I was going to say don't ignore red flags, but some of them are ignorable. But I more on the lines of, I think you really need to sit down with yourself and ask yourself, what will you tolerate and not tolerate from somebody? Because, yeah, some of those red flags, like you're like, all right, like.
When I was in therapy, they called those non-negotiables and negotiables. What you can really negotiate on.
I guess
Deal breakers.
Yeah,
deal
there you go.
breakers. You know what I mean? I think people need to be a little bit more honest with themselves about the way people are presenting themselves to you. And I think we accept more than what we should. And I think being in those that relationship, I accepted a lot more than I should have.
So now you don't take a lot of bullshit, basically.
I still take bullshit. Unfortunately,
That's
it's
honest.
just on a different level. Like I'll give you a chance, but it's not like that many chances. Like I'll be like,
like
maybe,
not to your detriment.
I'm like, yeah, maybe like I saw something. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe, you know, maybe I didn't see that right. And then you do it again. And I'm like, I'm tripping. You need to go. So stuff like that.
You need to go.
You need to go, because what was that? But I mean, there's some stuff that, like you said, some stuff are non-negotiable. I'm like, no. But other things, there's some things you're like, okay. But all these, I feel like if a lot of other stuff are kind of like lining up, oh, okay, maybe. But then, you know, you keep looking at it and you're like, nah, I can't deal with this. This is stuff that I will not tolerate, will not do. Yeah.
Vince, how about you?
I'm trying to remember the question.
Oh, so like what kind of trauma is from like your past relationships? Like, you know, like she said, she ignored red flags. So now she's more, aware of the red flags. Like what kind of traumas did you experience that now have led to your way of like thinking and healing going into new relationships?
I'll say that I've learned that I don't suck as a person. I'm not perfect by any means, but I don't suck. And the reason that I bring that up is because like there's a lot of girls that I've always thought were out of my league, and I was like, oh shit, I should put up with this because I can't do any better than this. But then, you know, like finding out later on, it's like, you know what, like even if I can't do better than this, I don't deserve this.
Right, knowing your worth.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good
So
one.
like definitely knowing my worth, like prioritizing and you know, like understanding the things that are really important,
Yeah.
you know?
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Yeah.
It's your turn.
I if I'm being completely honest, I think it's really hard. Like I know sometimes there's like awkward silence because people are like, well, Ackreight's our friend and you guys are still together. And what do we say to that? But, you know, I'm very transparent because I'm like you, Vince. I'm like, I hope that if I say something, someone will be like, well, that's the stage that I'm in right now. And I can relate to that, you know? I want to say definitely like, the knowing my worth is a big thing. I think I spoke about it a little bit on the last podcast, like really going like just because this person is better than the last person, it doesn't mean they're good. You know what I mean? Like with Ackright, we got into a relationship very shortly after we broke up with our really crazy exes, and we hadn't done any self-reflection, any self-healing, anything like that. So we jumped in, and I thought it was the bee's knees. You know, I was like, this is the shit. Like, this is the best guy that I could ever be with. And not to say that my husband is not a good guy, but the amount of things that we've had to go through for me to even be treated to the standard that I wanted to be treated to, you know what I mean? It took a lot of work because he had a lot of trauma, you know? So I would say that like knowing my worth is a big thing because there's a lot of points in our relationship, and I've talked about it on here, where it was very close to the end. And I was like, I fucking deserve better than this. Like, just because you were better than my ex, it doesn't mean that you're fucking great, you know?
Right.
And he had to self-reflect and be like, fuck, well, I do those things because of what happened with my ex, you know? And that's why I treat you shitty, or that's why I've done these shitty things because of what happened with my ex. So I would say I'm just telling that story because it's like echoing what you said. Like, knowing my worth is one of the things that I move forward with. I'm like, well, I've said this many times too on the podcast, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Like, I'm like, well, we're fighting about this, but is the healing or the good that comes out of it, is it worth it at the end of the day? Like, I have to really reflect on that now as a couple, you know?
And I would say that you're extremely lucky to have found somebody willing to walk that path with you.
Right.
Because it's going to be, it's very rare. Right, I could tell you right now that if I met somebody and it was kind of like all fucked up, and I wanted to walk, there's a likelihood that person is not going to try to fix themselves, to better our relationship. So that's, it's like for you, I think that's something special that you guys have, and I kind of like look at it from afar, and I'm like kind of envious. Like, I'm like, damn, like he or she, you and Ackright were able to find some common ground and work on it together, whereas nowadays people just don't.
Right.
They just up and go.
I think a lot of it has to do, and not to say that kids are the end all be all, but definitely from my experience, having kids was the biggest thing. One, speaking of the step parent thing, and I'm just speaking on my experience, like I said, Izzy, she's my stepdaughter. I've raised her since she was 2. I saw how much she was lacking like a mother figure, and I felt bad for her, and I wanted to love on her and be a mom. And Ackright, no offense to Ackright, back then, he was a very shitty father. Like, he didn't know what the fuck he was doing because his example was a very toxic stepdad, right? And a very absent baby mama, so he had no idea what the fuck he was doing. So that really was what pushed us to stay together. And then we had kids together, right? So it was one of these things where it was like, he didn't want to work on it, if I'm very honest with it. He was just like, I don't fucking know what I'm doing wrong. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. But when it was like the kids were involved and it was like, now they're fucking feeling our trauma, that's what pushed us. So, not to say that like a lot of people be like, oh, you shouldn't stay together for the kids. I agree with that. I definitely think that you shouldn't stay together for the kids, but if the kids pushed you to try to do better, then I think that's worth it, in my opinion.
I think that you shouldn't stay together for the kids, but at least you should stay together long enough to try to figure it out for the kids.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? A lot of times people hear that though, and they go, oh, I ain't staying with him just for the kids. But like, you just decided this like a month ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? At least work it out. Like, do your best to work it out.
I agree with that 100%.
Don't stay for the kids, but at least work it out for the kids, and hope. And if it fixes itself, great. If it doesn't, at least you guys leave in a better spot, and the kids are not traumatized by whatever.
I also think that, like, if you go into, and this is my personal experience and my piece of advice for anybody watching, I feel like if you do go into a relationship where you're both traumatized and you both feel the openness to work on it, like what me and Ackright eventually got to, I think you need to also accept that it's and we still experience that, is it needs to constantly be a work. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because there is still shit that I'm like, oh my God, are we still fucking arguing about that? You know, is that still coming up? And it's like, we've already fucking been through therapy for this. And he's like, oh shit, you're right. And then we didn't go for a while, and then the shit would come back up, and then we'd have to go again, you know? So it's like, it is work. It takes a lot of work, and it's really, is the juice worth the squeeze at the end of the day, you know?
I have a question for you. It's off topic, but you did bring it up, like how, you know, you are a stepmother to Izzy, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get past that? Because I had a relationship where I was in a long-term relationship with somebody, and she had a kid. She had a son. Oh my God, but she was just a shitty mom. And then the dad was like just as bad, because I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the Asian in me, and her culture was a little bit different, but they
Now I know who you're talking
celebrated mediocrity so much. I was like, yo, so what? He plays on the soccer team. That's no big deal. Who cares? You know, it's like, oh, my son does this. It's like, that's fucking basic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I had to bite my tongue.
Right.
And you know, I really don't know where I would be, or where my relationship with him would be if we were still together. You know,
The
like,
son.
what would my relationship be with the son if we were still together? First off, the baby daddy hated me. I don't know why. And then the mom was just so coddling, and I was just like, Jesus, like, tell your son to do some fucking push-ups or something. You know, he can't cry every fucking time that he doesn't get his way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how?
I'm not gonna lie. It's to this day, it's very hard. Because there's some traits that are genetic, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of shit that she does that my kids were not raised to be like, and I'm like, what, why, you know? And
Yeah.
I have to really take a step back and go, okay, well, she can't help it. That's part of who she is, you know? Honestly, the answer is a lot of patience and a lot of acceptance, because you have to accept that there's a part of that kid that is not you, and they're going to be the way that they are going to be. And patience, like, there's a lot of times where, I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of times I did want to give up. I'm like, she's too hard. Like, she's way too hard for me to raise.
Oh yeah, there's been some times that he'd be throwing temper tantrums.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I can't spank him, but if I put hot sauce under, like, Vicks under his eye or some shit like that, you know what
Like,
I'm
I'm
saying?
gonna torture you.
You know,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, there's so many times.
Also, I think my case is a little bit different because her mom she was not good, you know? So she respected me a lot more because I was that standard of a mom that she was looking for. So she listened to me, you know what I mean? And then, to be fair, Ackright was fucking clueless, like I said, as a parent. So he kind of just let me do whatever I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like, he saw how I parented my own daughter and was like, wow, like, you're amazing. I mean, you guys kind of heard him on that one podcast when we were talking about dads, and he was like, I just kind of refer to my wife to everything. I mean, like, literally, that's what he does. He's like, I don't fucking know, ask her. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I guess I'll take the reins on that. So I think you just have to really find someone that's willing to let you step parent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
that's a big, like, that would be a big red flag too if they didn't get along with my daughter.
of course,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
And if they tried to, like, raise her, because, like, my daughter's fucking perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's, in my eyes, she's like the greatest human ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I love that. That's so cute.
no, and if you know, like, to me, it's not that she can do no wrong. It's just that she's
Pretty damn near perfect, yeah.
she does everything right. So, you know, like,
If my daughter
else,
is listening to this, fuck, that ain't you.
no, you know, like, I, like, out of everything in my life, like, I would give all of it up just for her.
Yeah.
Because, like, she's, you know, I don't know if I can say I look up to her or like, I just respect her or admire her so much. But yeah, like, when it comes down to, it's like, okay, well, you know, my daughter's also old enough to be on her own.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, now it's like, well, how much do I really need my significant other to get along with my daughter,
Right.
because
right.
they don't ever have to
Yeah.
kick
Yeah.
it together.
And that was the question I was gonna have. It's like, how much do you allow your daughter to dictate who you're actually gonna be with?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true.
Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like you don't say no to her boyfriends. So why would you
Yeah.
worry about what she thinks about who you're dating? That's your own dating life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and to be fair, kind of to go along with what you're saying, it goes vice versa, right? Like, you were saying like your daughter's damn near perfect, so you don't want anybody like saying shit, right?
Yeah.
Like that was what actually also another issue that we had, because Ackright was such a rough parent, you know what I mean? Because he didn't have a, like, I actually have said that to him before. Like, I have told him a couple of times, not recently, but back when we were having a lot of issues, I was like, I'll be damned if I fucking left my psycho ass ex only to jump into another relationship where you're gonna give my fucking daughter daddy issues. You know, like, I've had to, like, I think that's another way to say, like, that's what you should do. You need to make that line, like, very, very clear in the beginning. Like, how you tell people, like, I'm not looking for a stepdaddy, you know?
Yeah.
And I told Ackright, like, you can parent Izzy how you want to parent her, but you won't be fucking talking to my daughter like that, you know? And he accepted that. That's the thing. It's acceptance and patience, right? He was like, okay, I need to take a step back because she's not going to accept that, you know? So it's a lot of compromise when it comes to that.
So when it comes to kids, and I'm probably this is going to be a good question for Jasmine. Like, you know, when you say that, you know, you're not looking for a father to your kids, right? At what point is it okay for him to now take that fatherly role to some extent? Like, if we got married and now everybody's living under my roof, do I still have to be just off to the side and you handle discipline on your kids? Or now, because I am now the head of this household, do I have the ability
Say.
do I have to say as to how things go in my house?
Oh man,
You know,
I've literally thought about this, and to me, it's hard. I don't know. My honest answer as of right now, I wouldn't want anybody else parenting my kids. That is my honest answer. And
So
I
if you were
thought-
living under their roof, you would still have him as of right now.
I wouldn't even allow it at this point because I wouldn't want to put myself in that position for you to parent my kids.
Yeah.
I get upset now if someone tells me how I should be raising my children. Like I get, and and
so at this point
again,
in time, at this stage, you're not ready for
I'm not
a
ready for
stepdaddy.
it. But again, it also stems from that me and my ex butt heads on how we're raising our kids. I don't want to butt heads with somebody else on how to raise my child either.
Yeah.
So like he feels like I shouldn't be disciplining them the way that I discipline them. I feel like he shouldn't be, you know, he's like the friend to my kids, and especially like my middle child, my daughter, she gets in trouble all the time, and he's like, yeah, but we should blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, we should, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't want somebody coming in
a third opinion.
a third opinion
Yeah.
telling me how I should. But it also, I don't know, my daughter has told me she's worried about me dating because I don't know where she got this from, but she don't really trust men. So
TikTok.
Probably, right?
probably
Yeah.
Vince, you
She's
had your
worried-
hand up.
she's worried about that. And then, hold on, I was going to say
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
That's
cut you
fine.
off.
Oh,
Good.
and then the other part to that is like even with the guy I was dating, we both didn't really hang out with like he had 2 kids, I have 3, but we never really like I think I saw them maybe a total of 5 times in the 3 years we've been together.
Damn, that was like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Like we were just like, you know, this isn't at this point in time, it's not about them, it was more about us.
Right.
And I wasn't ready to blend that.
But so I understand that, but right, like, so when your kids, so you're getting in a relationship, right? And your kids are young enough, obviously not your son, but they're young enough that within the next so many years, that's probably going to be an option, right? Like you're going to probably move in with a guy that you're in love with. So would you then be open to him at that point, do you think? Like,
Wait,
oh,
can
okay.
I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, what if I'm just giving
Hypotheticals.
a hypothetical? Yeah. What if you don't let them have like full authority or whatever, but you come to an agreement where you do a good cop, bad cop, where it's like you're still the main disciplinary because you are the natural parent figure.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like at the same time, you can build them so that they can build a relationship with the new significant other. So, like, let's say if my daughter was still young enough to be like disciplined, you know, and then I had a new girlfriend, well, I would want her to be able to confide in her if she has any woman problems or anything like that, and feel safe and secure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll still like kick my daughter down the stairs.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I like that idea, honestly. Yeah.
But in that, you know, like this is where my parenting approach was different from my daughter's mom, was where she was always telling her what she can't do, and then I always told her what she can do with the I can't think of the word, but with the parameter that she does something else. Like my daughter's mom would say, you can't play video games after such and such, right? And I'll say, you can if you finish all of your chores or all of your homework first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like taking the other role where I'm more mean. Like, yeah, it might make a little bit of a disconnect, but then you're still taking the main role as the disciplinary and everything, but it might help create a bond
yeah.
with the new person.
But I also feel like we're talking about like, well, in my case, we're talking about like teenagers here. You know what I mean? Or
if my daughter was still a teenager, I'm trying to use that scenario.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like teenagers or her being like an adult now. I'm saying that, you know, at this point, I feel like it's harder for kids at this age to be more receptive to somebody other than their parents. And I feel like it's not only going to cause issues with that significant other, but it could also potentially cause issues for you as well. As far as like, I get what you're saying, because that, I mean, yeah, you would want to build a bond with them and things like that, but a lot of times they don't want to build that bond because they're like, well, who are you? Why are you here?
Why are you trying to be nice to me? You ain't my daddy.
You ain't my daddy. Like,
that's where the stairs come in.
My 8-year-old literally wrote, I think like a year ago, her Christmas list, and her Christmas list had me and her dad getting back together.
So she didn't want a PS5?
No.
What's wrong with these kids?
And
Did Santa do it?
I told her, I sat her down, I was like, there's reasons. I'm very honest with my kids, not like 100, I'm like 95% honest with my kids, because if you're not honest with them, they're gonna figure it out anyways.
Kids are
and
smart.
Yeah, or they're gonna find out from their friends, and you don't want them hearing it from your friends, from their friends. Trust me on that one. But anyways, I told her, I didn't go into depth, but I was basically like, I know I saw you write this on your paper, I see it, but I just want you to know that this basically ship has sailed. Like, your dad still loves you, I still love you, you know, all this other stuff. Like, we're still a family, but we're just, you know.
With a straight broken heart. You know, they ain't no Santa, right?
But she knows that.
So I can kind of relate to that kind of mentality, even though me and my husband are still together, because I remember I still have this vivid memory one time when we were doing really, really bad, right? When I was like, this is it, we're going to divorce, blah, blah, blah. And I remember my son was playing and I was kissing my son on the cheek, right? Like while we were playing, I was like, oh, my son, da, da, da. And dad came up, you know, Ackright came up and started messing with him too, like kissing him on the cheek. Was like, it's a sun sandwich, like whatever. And that, because obviously, like, that's our kids. We're gonna put our issues aside. We're gonna play with our kid. And I had thought to myself, like, I could not do this with a new person. Like, I could never do this with a stepdad or with a guy that I'm dating. He'll never have the same love for my kids as my son. So despite how unhappy I was in the marriage at that time, I put my happiness aside because of my kids. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, whatever, I guess I could be fucking unhappy every day as long as my kids have this like joyful play and this like safe person that they could be around. So I get that whole
I have a question for you. No, maybe not.
Okay.
I don't know if I should ask it because I love both of you guys, but I just okay, I'll
just ask it.
it.
You already put it out there.
I mean, my question, I guess, to you, since we're talking about, traumas from, past relationships and how it's affecting our new ones. If you and Ackright were to divorce, what do you feel like there would be trauma? Would you be taking trauma? Are you guys pretty much healed from, the things that you guys been going through? Like,
first off, I'm hitting her up. If things don't work out between us, I'm probably gonna hit up Ackright.
Right? Hey, Ari, just so you know, me and Ackright have something going on. That's a really good question. If I'm being honest, I still have a lot of trauma. And if I'm being really honest, this relationship has caused more trauma that I'm currently working through, and vice versa. Like, there's a toxicity in me that came out that wasn't healed that I took out on him, and I feel bad for it till this day, and there's a lot of toxicity in him that still comes out. And so if I'm being honest, because of the podcast is like, that's what we're about, is I feel like our story is still unfolding.
Yeah, but you're also in the presence of like the singles varsity team.
Yeah.
So we got you.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are even times where I'm like, I think about it. I'm like, Kuya, Vince, what is your take on this? But then I always hear this in the back of my head. We're not here to help you with your problems. Like, so I just leave it alone. So the varsity team is not always there.
I mean,
it's in your best interest.
I could put my 2 cents in once in a while.
Yeah.
But
And I think it's also different because based on our last episode, right? Like, this is something. Okay, so let's ask this question. When would you guys say, like, enough is enough? Like, what do you guys think is like the deal breaker?
Immediately. Right? If she doesn't signal when she drives, that's a deal breaker.
This guy. No, honestly, like, so I'm being honest, right? Like, we're still working through trauma. There's still a lot of things. And like, okay, you guys remember the neurodivergent episode, right? So there's a lot of things that he does that are instinctual because of how the way his brain is built, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that still like irks me, or I don't understand it. Even the way we communicate, we've done this, like, even recently, just this week, where we're like arguing, and I'm like trying to get him to understand this point, and I'm like, what the like, you're not even understanding what I'm saying. And then like 45 minutes into the fucking thing, it clicks in his brain because of the way his brain is, right? And he goes, oh shit, I see what you're saying now. And I'm like, but do we have to do this circle where I'm crying, screaming, and upset for 45 fucking minutes, and I'm like traumatic, and our kids are crying because we're fucking fighting, and then it finally clicks? Like, do we have to, like, when do you guys say, like, okay, like, it's almost like...
I can tell you mine. This is actually easy for me. It's if I notice that there's a lack of acknowledgement and accountability, then I don't want to deal with it. And the acknowledgement and the accountability, it also gives what's it called? A tolerance.
But in my case, right, like, he's always acknowledging when he's wrong. That's part of what keeps me there, right? Is there's always acknowledgement, there's always accountability, but because of how his neurodivergency is, right, it always happens again.
But that's also your acknowledgement and your accountability. You're giving that tolerance, which there's no fault in that. And because you both have that from each other, I think that's why you guys keep it. But then what I'm saying is, when there's a lack of it, like if I say, babe, I hate it when you're late all the time. Right. It's like, oh, well, I didn't know that there was going to be traffic. And it's like, okay, well, that's cool. but then it like keeps on happening and it's always the same excuse. It's
Right.
like, then fucking leave earlier.
Right.
You
So
know?
that's kind of like something that we currently deal with. He's like, well, you know, it happens again. So my question to you guys that's on the varsity divorce team, right, is when
Varsity divorce
when do you guys go, okay,
I think we should be called alumni now.
alumni, right? When do you go, okay, so this is like an example they used in therapy, right? They're like, it's almost like, and not to say that Ackright is autistic, right? But they're like, okay, you go into it knowing that you're dating an autistic person, right? You can't expect an autistic person to have certain types of emotions, right? And you went into that knowing that, right? And so if you're unhappy, then you just need to accept that or move on, right? So for me, it's like, do you stick with the trauma and continue to try and heal while sacrificing like the things that make you unhappy or happy? Or do you go, well, he can't help it, and so we're going to continue to try work on it? What would you guys say?
I mean, you know how you say there's like negotiables and non-negotiables. Sometimes they kind of like they blur the lines,
Right.
right? I think you do have to kind of work on it, and you know, like for instance, like you know when you have to give the example with Ackright, you're like, yeah, so we had this argument, and then it got to this crescendo, and 45 minutes later he understood, right? Are you cognizant of the fact that 45 minutes later he'll probably understand, and he didn't have to get this high? You could just have like ignored it and say, hey, motherfucker, shut up. You'll understand in 45 minutes. Come back to me later.
Okay, but that's the problem, right? Is it takes that crescendo for him to get it every single time.
Oh, so you can't just go, this is what it is.
No.
I'm gonna back away. You just keep thinking that in your head, argue within yourself, and then because you know you don't want to end up
Right. And well, that's my problem, right? Is like, that's my struggle is like, I love him. He loves me. And you know how they say like, sometimes love is not enough. Right. And so we've had that conversation. I'm like, but why do we have to get here? I told him that. I was like, I don't want to scream and argue and talk about the same 17 million things only to get to the, oh yeah, huh? Like why? Because now I'm traumatized every time we have a talk.
there's no type of like rehab techniques, like write it down and come back to it and keep looking at it and see if you understand.
But that
it.
would be someone that's not neurodivergent. That would be someone that's actually tactical and able to like work, like think that through. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm not too familiar with neurodivergency and all that, whatever. But I'm saying like if he eventually understands it, he's actually eventually cognizant of what he does, and he did it on the podcast. So I'm asking is like, you know, like if he's aware of it, sometime is there a way to process it prior? Like, okay,
No,
we understand.
that's why I'm like, and then that even the podcast came up. I'm like, hey, we talked about this on the podcast, remember? And he's like, nah, you know, and then we argue. And I'm not saying that I'm innocent. I'm very
You should play on the
toxic.
podcast.
I'm very toxic in these moments too. I'm like, motherfucker, we talked about this. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not, this is not like a Ackright Ari fucking like therapy session, but I'm asking like in general, like for people listening, when would you say enough is enough?
Well, I'm not going to speak on y'all's situation, but I think only
Coming from your experience, like not my experience,
from
your
my
experience.
I knew enough was enough when I felt it. Only you can tell yourself.
Right.
Literally
Yeah.
every woman has told me that. When
only
you know,
can-
you know.
When you know, you know. Only you can tell yourself. Like I heard this guy say, this girls will give you a chance 100 times. And then that 101 time she was like, I'm done. And when she's done, that's when
I know what video you're talking about. You know why? Because one of my best friends sent that to Ackright. They're like, hey, listen, you watch this video.
yeah. But I also feel like this is, you know, playing devil's advocate here. So knowing what you know now about Ackright, is there, I know there's, you say after so long he gets it or whatever, but are there steps that you personally can take yourself to not put yourself in that situation where you're upset and mad at him because you know eventually maybe he'll get it or something like that, but and you don't want to go through the screaming match and all this? So is there something that you can do yourself personally to be like, okay, like you said, maybe come back later to it, or maybe is it worth even fighting, like picking your battle at that time? You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know, like personally what you guys like go through or how it is, but I'm saying like, now that you guys are like going to therapy and you guys are figuring stuff out and you now know what's going on with him and blah, 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 is there...
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Right.
Right. I think that's part of the so with executives, not that we're like bringing the subject up again, but with that, like they're just not inclined to do quote unquote the work, right? So that's kind of my frustration is I've read all the books. I keep I'm doing the self-help thing, you know? And like, for example, when we went to therapy, we were there for 2 years. He didn't do one of the homework assignments, not one. And that's that, you know, and it was like, one of those things, and then we had to go back, obviously. But it was like it's like that, you know. It's kind of like, yeah, I personally feel like I'm taking the steps, but I'm sure he does too, though. Do you know what I mean? In his brain, he thinks he is. So it's kind of like that's why I'm like, when do couples feel like enough is enough? You know, like especially with this podcast, I'm always like, what can I do? You know, like after talking to you guys, he's even said that. He's like, I think this podcast has saved us a couple times because you come back with the guys' perspectives and you're like way more understanding than you were before. But then when nothing is moving on the opposite end, it's frustrating, you know? So
I think it's about the same with I mean, at least for me, it's like you just have to, it's just, if at some point you're like, it can't continue to go on like this.
right. Yeah.
And then you're just, you know, you have to learn to just check the fuck out. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it could be good, but could be is a long time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
That's
a lot
exactly
of
it. Right.
There's a lot of headaches and heartaches in could be's.
Could be. Mm-hmm.
You know, and you just have to cut your losses.
Yeah. So for your guys' experience, I know that you guys have all talked about, because I'm like, let's stop talking about me now.
Right.
For you guys, like you have said that like the dating pool is hard because you're scared. You have dated. I want to say a lot because I don't want to be.
Like,
that's gonna be clipped like with me that I'm a hoe.
She's on the market
Yeah.
every day.
So you've dated, and you're kind of like, I'm done. You know, you're like, I'm done, right? Do you guys ever have that thought where you were like, I should have just kept going with the relationship that I was
no.
in?
No.
Hell no.
It's
So for you guys, it was completely like the juice is no longer worth the squeeze.
yeah. No. Through my own self-reflection, I know my worth, and I know I should not put up with that bullshit ever.
Ever. That's why I'm saying, like, before I left, I made sure that this was it. I knew once I left, okay, this was it. And there was a time too, like he asked me, I think a year into our separation or something, maybe 2. He was like, do you think we could get back together? You know, for the kids, I miss our family, blah, blah, blah. Sure. Do you want to go to counseling now? No.
Well, then no.
Do you want to work on this? No. Can we just move in together and then we can figure this thing out? Nope, I'm not doing that. So
what's funny is that he's like, can we figure this thing out? When he was the guy that said, I don't want to work on this anymore. How are you gonna figure something out when you ain't working on
work?
it?
Yeah, and that's my biggest thing is you have to both be putting in the work. Like, can we all agree on that? That like, past, present, trauma, healed. Both parties have to agree to put in the work.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So no, I won't. Hell no.
And that's one thing I didn't understand too, how much work it actually has. It has to be. You know, it's not a fucking perfect love story, love affair.
Well,
like,
I think that's where people like me struggle, right? Like me, because let's keep it real. Let's fucking keep it 100 because we always do on here. I am not the only one that's like, oh, we're great and we've been to therapy. Oh, we're still struggling. Like there's a lot of couples, young and old, that are doing that. But the question is also is like, okay, so oh my God, I just fucking had a brain fart. It's gone. It just left.
I mean,
just like that.
I mean, it's that
Well,
tequila.
I can disagree with all of you guys real quick,
Okay, go
and just say
What was I
that
saying?
I don't think that it has anything to do with the work. It's more on the effort.
Right, the effort for the work.
Well, you just reworked that. I mean, you reworded work. I mean,
Right.
that's
No, not really, because you can do work half-assed.
yeah, but that's
very true.
semantics. Come on now, you just want to be technical with it.
No,
I'm just like saying.
well, I mean, technically, yeah, I do.
No, I agree with that because
Yeah.
there was definitely like I'm just using our relationship because obviously we've been together for a long time and we've been through it. Like there was definitely times where he's like, "Well, I did it," and it's like,
Yeah,
but
like
but you really
the
didn't,
homework
though.
assignments that you guys do.
exactly,
You know?
and the therapist would very much say like, "But did you really though?" You know, like,
Yeah,
"But did you
exactly.
really?" And he's like, "Well, I did the work; it's completed." And she's like, "But you didn't really like there would be like questions, right?" And he'd be like, no, like just like write whatever answer
Yeah.
down to say that he checked the box off, but it wasn't thought through. It wasn't thoughtful, you know. So I can see where you're coming
Yeah,
from with
because
that point too.
there was a deal breaker that came up in a relationship, and I vocalized it with said ex-girlfriend, and she couldn't recover from that, but she showed me that she tried. I was like, okay, well, at least you're trying. You know what I'm saying? Even though she didn't even get a chance to like it was something stupid as hell, like just clean your fucking car.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then like the thing is that like she really tried to show me that she was going to do it, but she literally had no time to do it. And I was just like, well, I know that you rushed from this to this so that you can dedicate time to do this. But then something came up, and it's like, you know, I understand. You had the effort. You didn't get shit done, but at least you tried.
Really tried. Yeah. Okay, so that's the opposite end, but also it's effort. So
Yeah.
you take that in. Oh, that was my question. So you always hear people going, well, nowadays people just fucking dip, right? They like one little problem and they just dip. And so they tell you that like if you want a successful marriage, you have to put in the work. Like back in the day, there was this quote that Montel Williams got kind of like fucking reamed for because him and his wife are like marital counselors. They've even showed up to my church before to do like presentations and shit like that, you know. And Montel Jordan and his wife were asked.
Montel Williams.
Not Jordan. Montel Williams. Yeah, him. He. I don't know why. Sorry. They asked him the question. I forgot how it was exactly worded, but basically to the effect of like, what is the secret to your guys' long lasting marriage, basically, right? And both of their answers was, we took divorce completely off of the table. That was not an option, which is why they lasted. And then you look at the comment section of this like clip, right? And everybody was like, well, that's fucking stupid. Like that's like telling someone they're not going to get a speeding ticket, so they're going to keep fucking trying you, you know? So for me, it's like, where do you draw the line? Not me, but like in general for people. Where do you draw the line of like, you have to put in work because that's how marriage is, to that's like you're putting in the work but you're both not getting anywhere. You know what I mean?
So you look at the I look at the overall like relationship, right?
Right.
If 70% of my time with this person is good, why am I worried about the 30%?
That's a good way of putting it.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's like it's never going to be perfect.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes it's 30% bad. I mean 70% bad, 30% good. But overall, if it's 70-30 or what, however we want to put it, if everything's on the plus side, why am I putting so much effort in the 30%? That could be that's most of the time insignificant at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you made that comment, or not you made the comment, but when you said that they took divorce off the table, my thought wasn't, you know what people were saying in the comments. My thought immediately went to speaking negative into your, relationship. I feel like a lot of people speak. I did it myself. I was constantly like, I'm going to divorce you. This isn't going to work. This is blah, blah, blah.
But you
I
did,
don't want
though.
it. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
But that's what you
But
do, though. You
spoke
manifest.
it.
I mean,
I
sorry.
spoke it
Yeah.
into my relationship. You know what I mean? And
But do you think
did
if you
it so
didn't that
many
you wouldn't have?
times. I don't know that, but I know that what I do know is there has been times where he was like, you say it so much, just do it already.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was,
And it's easier to say to do once you say enough.
exactly. So when you made that comment right now, that's where my mind went, is that, and I even like spoke to one of my friends. She's like, marriage isn't for me. And she got married a year ago. And it's like,
See, that's what. See, my mind went somewhere completely different because when you said divorce is off the table, I was like, well, obviously because marriage is off the table, I'm ahead of the game.
Oh, jeez, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Sorry. I was what?
This guy.
The-
But
You can't get divorced if you don't get married. Is what he
Right.
said.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Can't get divorced if you don't
Can't
get married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's where, a lot of times, sometimes we're negative on the fact that, we feel like it's not going to work out anyways, or that's why a lot of people don't put in work. They're like, oh, it's not going to work out anyways. You know what I mean?
Speaking of that, that's actually an interesting point. That's something that he told me. So what do you guys think about that? He was like, when you brought up divorce, I don't take it seriously because my parents always yelled, well, not parents, his toxic stepdad, right, and his mom. When I tell you that relationship till this day is volatile, like that is a terrible example for a relationship, but that's what he grew up with.
They're still together?
Because she's super Catholic. So she's cried to me. She's been like, sorry, she doesn't listen to this anyway. She's like,
So one
yeah,
time
if
she
I shouldn't have left Anthony's dad because this is the worst relationship that I've been in. But I promised God that I wouldn't leave. So Akra has literally told me that, like in a time of epiphany for himself. He's like, I don't take when you have told me that like you're so unhappy that you're gonna leave me. He's like, I honestly don't take that seriously because that was tossed around in my house like it was like candy, So he's like, that doesn't really affect me.
Yeah, he's immune to it.
Yeah, he's literally immune to it. So he's like, I have no motivation to fix myself because I don't see that as a reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's so weird because like I've been like somebody would say, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna leave you. I'm like, bet, let's find you a place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not like that. He's just like, no, you're not, because that's not real.
Well, there's also been times because I take everything, or when I'm in a relationship and if we get in a heated argument, I take everything seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm driving with some girl and she says, let me out of the car, blah, blah, blah,
You'll just pull
I'll
over on the
never
freeway.
see her again. It's
Mhm.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I guess everybody's just different, So
And I like that story. If there's another girl that wants to be toxic to me, I'm down to
leave
tell
you
that
on the
story.
side
Yeah.
of the road.
I'll leave you on the side of the road. I don't give a fuck. I'll find a bad neighborhood for you.
So us being an older group in this panel, right? What kind of advice would you have to give to people that are newly divorced or newly out of a long-term relationship and they're currently healing, or they feel that they're healed and they're stepping back into the game? What
Go
would you
get $2 steaks on Tuesdays.
That's true.
Yeah.
$2 steaks on Tuesdays.
I go there.
There
and I'm
is
married, so it's
no-
okay.
There's no downside to this.
Yeah. I'd just say take your time. Like, fine, man. There's no need to rush, and really know what you want, so that you're not necessarily like putting up facades, trying to find that one person to be your world. That will
Just your favorite part of your world?
Yep.
even then that takes time.
Yeah, that's true.
That doesn't necessarily happen overnight, and if it did, that'd probably just be fucking whatever. It won't be. It'd be like just another thing, a cute thing for you to say.
Yeah.
But I still go by that whole thing where you learn to love the one you found.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to eventually grow with that person.
I agree with
And
that.
that doesn't necessarily happen fucking overnight, or any fucking anything that person says. It's all about action.
What about you? What kind of advice would you give to the healed or healing and out of a long-term relationship going into it?
Just make sure you're healed before you're going into a new relationship. Like you said, take your time. Don't settle like you already have, apparently.
Yeah, don't settle.
Don't settle again.
Yeah, that's what I say. Again.
Again.
Not again.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
How about you,
Yeah.
Vince?
This is actually some really good advice that I saw on
Sometimes
on
I get
Instagram.
scared. I'm like, is this for real?
Yeah.
He saw it on Instagram.
So if you
Saw it on Instagram.
if you decide to have a hoe phase and you let people record it, play Disney in the background, because if it gets leaked, they'll take it down.
What?
I don't even.
For like copyright? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying? So
exactly.
they would never be able to find out?
Yeah. So
Oh.
I would just change the audio.
Yeah.
I would
Because
edit.
he's the tech guy over
I would
here.
edit the audio.
So this is
Why
with
don't
the
you
assumption.
no face, no case?
That's what I was
Like,
gonna say. This
what?
is with the assumption that your face is being shown
Yeah.
on that,
Right.
or it's being recorded, for that matter.
Or you record it on your phone.
yeah,
So
I've
they
said
don't
that,
have a copy.
right? I
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah, you did say that before too.
Mhm.
Your phone. So we have some advice that you guys can all walk
I
away
don't even
with.
know where that came from, but whatever.
this whole episode just been about fucking trauma.
Trauma. We're all talking about our trauma here. Okay, let's ask this then. What is the most traumatic experience that you had in your relationship?
Wow.
Like, obviously,
can't-
everything was fucking trauma, but what is something that sticks out to you where you were just like, because this is more, so this is more story time, right?
Oh,
like,
I'm single and I still got cheated on. What
like-
the? No, I'm just kidding.
Listen,
like that you
real.
were just like, fuck, man.
I can't say.
Okay.
Because my daughter sometimes listens to this.
Okay, well
Yeah.
then maybe like the way that it made you feel, like okay, like she made me feel like a nothing, or like
No,
earlier you said.
this whole event, it's almost like your heart just sinks. It's
So there was a specific event.
yeah, it's almost like, you know, like when you it's almost like a shock. It's almost like I don't know how it feels, but it's almost like your whole body just kind of like has this like has
out
this,
of
like,
body experience.
yeah,
almost.
and it was just like it was the worst. It was expected, but when you actually find out, it's like, ooh, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like that nervousness.
So did you guys have problems before? Or was it this particular shock that you speak of, or is it one of those like, well, these problems led to that shock?
I think it was a buildup. Obviously, it's a buildup. It just doesn't happen overnight.
I asked that because I was listening to the story today, actually, where this girl was like talking about how she did this TikTok, obviously TikTok, right? And she's like, what my man was doing when he was cheating on me, right? And you would think that it was going to be like he was ghosting me, he was doing this, but she was like, he'd warm my car up every morning, he filled my gas tank, he sent me flowers all the time. So basically, he was the perfect man. And then she found out that the whole year that they were together for a couple of years, but the whole year, this perfect man was actually leading like a double life. And then she talked about it, what you said, like, well, like this, and it like fucking gutted me because it was like so unexpected. So your situation was more like it kind of led up to it. There's
Yeah.
things leading up. Okay.
Yeah.
How about you? Do you have a traumatic experience that kind of changed you that you're willing to share?
I mean, it all changed me really, but same thing. Like my youngest daughter, I don't know how she found this podcast, but she was showing all her younger friends about this podcast.
Damn.
She
these
was like,
fucking kids.
my mom's on a podcast. I was like,
Hi, kids.
Hi, kids.
Hi.
Well, it's like the fucking
Hi.
friends that were watching me. Like, why is your mom fucking talking about being half naked? I'm like, ew, why are you watching my podcast? Get the
Yeah.
fuck off my podcast, you 12-year-old. Like, what the
Right.
Excuse
fuck?
me, she was full naked and half covered.
Exactly.
All right.
Right.
There we go.
But I will say, I guess kind of like the same thing. I never actually knew what a heartbreak was until that relationship. And it's like, it was like, I remember where I was standing when it happened and how I felt. Like, it was like,
That ultimate betrayal,
yeah,
right?
like the pain that was in my chest was just like, I remember it so vividly. Like, it's crazy.
Like someone punched you in the
Man,
fucking throat.
it was just.
Thanks for the memories. I'm going back there right now.
I'm sorry.
The trauma is
I'm
resurfacing. The trauma is resurfacing,
I'm
guys.
just like, I remember, and I just remember,
We're all gonna,
like,
you guys are all gonna go back home crying, and I'm gonna go back home fucking cursing out Akron. Like, you motherfucker.
I'm just like,
You did that.
Jasmine's like, I remember the time, and I was like, time warp. I'm like,
yeah,
You're like,
I
oh,
remember
shit.
the time,
And
the
like-
place, who I was talking to. Like,
Damn.
I remember everything, and I remember just saying, I've never felt a heartbreak before, and like literally, like putting my hand on my chest because it hurt so bad. I was like, this is crazy. Like, and yeah, I don't want to ever get to that place ever again.
Do you have any stories or feelings or like kind of like vague explanations of of a trauma that you went through that was kind of like, man, that was a life changer for me?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think right now. I don't think so. The only thing that really, really hurt was when my daughter's mom took my daughter away from me. But as far as like
That's
relationships,
not a good one, but that's a
no,
big
no,
one.
yeah.
Not good.
But as far as like relationships, I can't think of a time that I was really heartbroken because remember I
you block
helped
shit out.
well, I helped my ex cheat on me that one time. The other time, there was another
Explain
time
to
where
her what you mean by that because she wasn't here for that episode.
I was just over.
He has a hard time breaking up with people, like really hard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You say no more. I know exactly.
Yeah.
What you're talking about.
So the thing is that like I really was over this ex that I talked about either in the previous podcast or earlier in this one where she was just a shitty mom. You know what I mean? And I was just like, I can't stand the kid. I hate the way that she's like, she's just a shitty person, and she's like advertising herself to like, I talked to you about this. Like, I don't think girls should post selfies when they're in a relationship, but yeah, she was still going clubbing and stuff. I was like, dude, I'm fucking over this, but I can't break up with her because I felt bad. So noticed that she was hanging out with some guy, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you know what? I'm busy. Why don't you guys go hang out and stuff?" They ended up together.
Oh,
Aren't they married now or engaged or something?
They're engaged, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're engaged,
so
and I was
you
just
helped
like,
her find her new person.
yeah. So I'm like,
He
well,
jokes
I
that
I
he's
have
like, what is that called? Good luck, Chuck? Is
yeah,
that-
I am good luck Chuck because like also
He looks
so-
just like him too.
you know what's funny?
I was like, no way. Okay.
No, you know what's funny? Remember the girl that I was kind of talking to? She's apparently pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
My other ex that I lived with and was just drama all the time. She got, when she cheated on me, she got pregnant by some other guy, and I was like, oh, thank God, dodged that bullet. You know what I'm saying? So these have all been things, and see, this is probably why I don't feel bad every time I go through a breakup. I mean, there's a little bit of sadness, but I have like all of this, the podcast, I have the photography. I like to DJ. But when I get into a relationship, those take aside, because a lot of girls don't like it when I'm at the nightclub until 2-3 o'clock in the morning, with bottle service girls and go-go dancers, or doing photo shoots with models and stuff like that because of their insecurities, which, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, because like girls and guys have insecurities. So I'm not devalidating that, but I'm also very like monogamous. And for me to prioritize a relationship over my passions, it's very easy for me to get over the relationship when I can go back to my passions. So I really don't give a fuck.
I see.
That's why it's easy for me to leave girls at the side of the road, especially if they dare me.
I have a question now, though.
What's up?
Does that help you heal?
I was gonna say the same thing.
Like it does. It seems like it's a mask. It's a mask, right?
Yes.
I'm
Well,
wondering.
not really, because I'm not. I wouldn't say that I heal, because I don't really think that I let myself get hurt, or maybe I'm just in denial of that. I'm not sure.
I see that.
It's a very big possibility that I'm just in denial of my own pain. But how do I feel bad when I feel
distracting
good all the
yourself.
time?
You,
You know
Because
what I
you're
mean?
distracted.
but the relationship ended, so there had to have been some sort of conflict there. But then you're just masking the conflict by saying it's okay because I could just get back to photography. But that doesn't fix anything.
I feel like you're
You know what I
act
mean?
right
I'm just
before when
Wait,
you didn't process anything yet, But
What's up?
he thought he was fine. I said I feel like it's almost like when Ackright was in that stage when we were first dating, when we were like happy-go-lucky for the first couple of years, and it was like, no, it didn't bother me that my ex got pregnant by a bunch of different dudes, you know? And it was like, you're not sad about that? He's like, no. And then like later on, it came to bite us in the ass because he was like, oh shit, I never actually processed that. I thought I was happy and good, but I wasn't. Like you're not scared
Like
that
like,
might.
like that anger, like
it might
like
come,
that anger.
it will,
It's like,
yeah.
No, well, this is also how I learned how to be like, how to hate better. You know,
He's not making this any better.
you know, like because
He should have.
There's girls on here that are either gonna wanna they're either gonna hold you tight, like, oh, this poor guy, or be like, what
push
the
you away.
or push
No,
you away,
this
like,
is-
fuck this guy.
Yeah.
because you know the whole passive aggressive like hate that I've been doing on online. So this is where I learned it because like I've experienced this. So like my ex-girlfriend, you know, like she used to like the fact that I did photography and I would airdrop her photos. Now she's dating somebody with an Android phone. Sucks to be you, bitch. There's another girl, there's another girl. She used to love going out to eat with me all the time. Now her new man, allergic to sushi. Sucks to be you, bitch. You know what I'm saying? Another one, allergic to her new man.
So this is how
allergic
he
to
heals.
puppies.
Passive aggressive.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, did you really
Doesn't
upgrade?
sound too healthy.
It doesn't.
But you know what?
Doesn't at all.
You know how funny it is? Like, look how much
in here
joy
like,
I brought you guys.
Jasmine's like, oh my god,
The trauma is. He could have did this podcast by himself.
that part.
Oh,
Me
with
and him
all my
together,
personalities
just
and
like
shit.
over here fucking crying together. And
Vince's
shit.
TED Talk.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Seriously.
Wow.
Take the red pill, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I just that was just a question. It's like if everything is masked, that's kind of like what I used to do in the past too. Just kind of dive into my passions, but that's why I was always building the same house with the same stones because I never stopped and said, "Fuck, you need to fix your fucking self because you are part of the fucking problem."
And
Well, isn't that part of like me healing? Is the fact that I would prioritize the wrong things. Now I'm prioritizing the right things.
No, because sometimes you have to learn that you are prioritizing the wrong things if you want the relationship to actually progress. But if you're just going to go, oh, you know what? Nah, I'm just going to go here because that's what I feel is going to be the good thing, then you're kind of just like negating.
I understand what you're saying because you're saying that you process the right things now because back then you were less selfish and now you're being more selfish where you're prioritizing yourself.
Yeah,
right? Is that
and
what
we
you're
got to
saying?
normalize the word selfish because selfish is not a bad word.
Yeah, so you're being more selfish in a healthy way, right? By prioritizing your wants, your needs, your passions. But I think to combine that with what Rich is saying is you can do that and it's good that you're being selfish, but you also still need to go through the healing process, and that's the missing link, right? Like you have your passions and shit, but you did a lot of self healing and reflection and things with the passions, right? Like that's the kind of like the difference.
Yeah, like I couldn't just like let's say I let myself fucking go, and let's say I now look scruffy and I'm not like presentable anymore. Diving into art or videography or whatever does not fix the fact that I'm still unpresentable. Right? Like I'm overweight, I look scruffy, I'm not
You're just
presentable.
sweeping the problem under the rug.
Exactly. So I had to fix that while also like delving into like whatever projects I was doing, because that was actually part of the reason why there was conflict in that particular relationship.
I think that's another really good key point, and you guys can disagree or agree with me, but I feel like another big point to pull out of the trauma that we've all experienced is at the end of the day, like you said, you have to look within yourself and see, right? But I also think one of the things that I personally had to learn is that you can't fix other people. Like, I've always been the Captain Sava bro, and
That's
I'm always,
right. There's always a better way to hate. Is that where you're going with that?
No, just,
okay.
yeah, okay, no. But like, right, like you can't, like kind of like with you with your ex, like we've talked about it before, you were hoping it was always going to be this thing and you were going to help him change and you're going to present these books and like these solutions, but you can't, you can, like that saying, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. Like,
Right.
And I feel like that's a big thing with healing too, is to understand that like you can do the internal work 100%, but if the other person is not willing to fix themselves, it's still not going to work. Like you both have to be on the same page with internal healing,
Oh my God, I'm so toxic.
Yeah.
Well, because
yeah.
you're like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Yeah.
But I was like thinking, but you could drown it.
Wow.
So,
my
I don't
God.
know where this side of me came out. This
Because he
so-
hasn't
Let's say, but
healed
yeah,
yet.
you're masking it again though. You're
Yeah.
masking it through your
It.
jokes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Damn,
Yeah.
we were just on that call out game
Yeah.
today.
No, I'm just. Hey, man.
No,
we're-
it's
hey,
true.
No, I would.
if we're-
Okay, for clear record, I wouldn't drown any of my exes, but I wouldn't save them either. I'd just be like,
Oh my God.
Listen,
Sucks to be you.
It's not
Cut
a
it
call.
now. It's not getting any better.
It's not a call out game because if somebody is watching this, they could learn something. That's what.
Exactly.
Oh,
that's what the
yeah,
whole
Well,
purpose
that's why
is.
we've all put our shit out on the table, right?
Yeah.
Like I've
Trust
talked about
me.
my problems, you talk about your shit, because somebody somewhere out there is gonna be like, "Yeah, I relate to Vince."
Yeah.
yeah.
Someone's gonna
Yeah,
be like,
seriously.
Yeah.
right? Exactly.
And then to summarize it, don't be bad. There, I fixed it. I fixed it. There, we're all good now. All of the bad shit that I said, don't do that. So
Don't do that.
yeah, so
use me as an example of
yeah,
don't.
we're good. We're good.
Wow, we didn't make Vince T-shirts.
I just-
don't do
Well,
bad.
what was our topic again? I just feel like I'm
About
traumatized.
drowning a horse. You're
That's what we should say the topic is. Should
Drown-
we drown horses or not?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
Should we drown?
We're-
Should
No.
we drown our exes?
Should we kick our daughters and exes down the stairs if it benefits? Oh, I thought you were gonna like get up
He's
and
gonna
like
show
show
his
I know. I
socks.
thought he
Yeah.
was gonna.
It's
Oh,
toxic
wow.
as fuck right there. It sucks.
Oh wow, toxic as fuck. Self-proclaimed.
Yeah.
So does that mean he really is? If
Toxic.
he's self-proclaimed?
Hey, whatever.
He's definitely not.
these were. Oh wait, you know what though? These were a gift.
She's like really concerned. She's like, wait a minute.
He's
Yeah,
feeling-
because
How do we heal my friend over here?
I'm thinking about myself and after my long relationship with my ex, and how I masked a lot. Like was going out with my friends. This is when I was going out literally, I think like 4 times a week, maybe even more than that. And I was going out, I was going to parties,
Drinking.
dressed, I was drinking, I was doing all this. And to myself, I'm like, I'm doing really good with this. Like really great.
Oh my
with
god,
this.
that was me with my high school sweetheart. Like we were
Yeah,
together for
I
10
was
years,
like,
and I was like
this is-
partying every week after we fucking.
Yeah, this is great. Like,
I'm
everything.
good.
I'm good. I think it was maybe 6 months, maybe a year after that.
You're like,
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
good.
I'm not good. I don't know what happened. How I ended up like not going out that weekend. I was like, oh, okay. And I'm just sitting in the house and my kids are with, and I also noticed that too. I couldn't sleep in my house by myself, like at all. Like my kids had to be there or something,
Or you had to be doing something.
I had to be doing something. I had to be like somewhere else. Like I couldn't be in the house by myself. So
Yeah.
I worked. When I say I work, I was working like crazy hours. And then
That's
when
crazy.
it finally like hit me where I wasn't doing any of that stuff, and I like sat down and I was just like,
Oh
I'm
my
fucking
God.
depressed.
Yeah.
That's
Like I'm mad, like I'm crying, like what's going
There-
on?
well, there's
and
certain-
I thought I was good, and I'm not.
Well, there's certain things that your brain does to protect itself too.
right, exactly. There's science behind that too,
So,
for sure.
so you're sitting there and it's like you're kind of doing things.
Yeah,
The kind of and then eventually
keep
like
busy. You're
Yeah.
doing things to keep busy.
But wait, I have a question. Let's just say that, and I'm open to this because well, let me just say,
yeah.
if I am delusional and I am masking my sorrow with
Stuff.
Yeah.
stuff, if I'm not hurting anybody, myself included, is that really a bad thing?
But you are hurting yourself because
You're
you're not
hurting
letting yourself
yourself.
heal. You just don't know it yet because you haven't let yourself sit with those feelings.
But how am I?
You might not even know it though. So, for example, like what you said right now really resonated with me, right? Because one of my best friends, I didn't even know I was doing this, right? She goes, and I fucking started bawling when she said this. I was bawling because it didn't even hit me until she had said it. She goes, Ari, are you always doing stuff with your kids and are you always cleaning and like keeping yourself busy? Because I was always telling her like, man, I don't sleep. I did it. She's like, are you doing that to deny the fact that you're really sad right now? And the second she called me out on that shit, because I didn't realize I was doing that, I just thought I was like, oh, I'm a good mom. I'm spending time with my kids. I'm fucking, doing shit for my mom. I'm doing the thing with our family business, like blah, 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 blah. The second she said that, I just fucking broke down and I cried. I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So I think maybe you don't even know that you're doing that. You know?
I think that it's like if you're not hurting anybody, all well and good, right? But
yeah.
I think eventually when you do want to be in a relationship, everything kind of
It's
unravels.
gonna come out, yeah.
And then you're gonna start to wonder why it's almost like the same scenario all over again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's if it's the same scenario, there's only one common denominator. It's you. So
Vince, me and you do things all wrong, apparently.
Okay.
no, I'm just saying, like, you know, like when you're saying if you're not hurting anybody, is that, you know, it's. I mean, I agree with you. Like, okay, well, do you, boo boo. But eventually, when you get into a relationship, and you probably will, some of these things can.
It's gonna rear its ugly head
Yeah.
again.
And then that's the issue, is that, yeah, you can continuously just kind of like push these relationships aside, but when you meet that one person that you really like you're really supposed to be with, and you can't kind of get out of your rut, that becomes now it's like, you know, I don't want to see my friends go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Is
And-
that, go ahead.
No, I get it. I'm you know, I'm not trying to be in denial, but I'm also not able to grasp the fact that, like, I might be sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
It's
Yeah.
weird, you know, like I'm
You're
trying
just
to
not there
understand.
yet.
Yeah.
I get it.
No,
Not that we wish sadness upon you or
Yeah,
anything
no,
like
no,
that,
no.
but yeah, we get. Well, I
No,
get
but
what
you
you're saying.
don't normally, like, sometimes I'll get up in the morning and be like, fuck, I'm fucking lonely as fuck. Then I just kind of have to go in my day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, like,
But I also think that's part of like masking too the I'm not sad, I'm not this, fuck you, fuck this, because I felt that way too. Like I said earlier in one of the podcasts, like I would be with the guy and they'd be like, oh, you want to, no, fuck you, I'm gone, bye. That was my way of like kind of like getting back at the fact that, you know, I went through this traumatic.
Right.
I don't want to go through, you know, I don't want to spend time
Yeah.
with this
Well-
person. So in my mind, I'm like, fuck you, fuck this person. Like, I don't have no feelings anymore towards anybody. Like,
And I
I
think
didn't
that's
let
part of the
myself-
healing, right? Is like when you do start to heal and do self-reflection, you realize that a lot of the things that you were doing stems from the trauma. You
Right.
know,
But-
like you don't even know it.
But I'm also conscious of the fact that there are some activities that I would like to do with a significant other instead.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, that's easy for me to get over when I see the bill, you know. And then
like I go through that too. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
You know what I'm
man,
saying?
I know.
It's like, it'll be nice.
I'm there right now.
Yeah.
where I'm like,
Like,
don't get
I'm
me
good
wrong.
'cause
Vegas
I don't
would be
wanna
nice, but I ain't
Yeah,
spending
I
that
ain't
money.
Yeah.
spending that money.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I do. There are some things that I'm thinking, oh, you know, it would be nice if I could share this with somebody.
Yeah.
But then, it's not that nice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really give a fuck. Like,
Right.
do I really want to pay for a wedding? Do I really want to, you know, go to Korean barbecue with one significant other that I'm gonna look at that I really love, or all of my homies, and we get to split the bill? You know what I'm saying? It's like there are some times
I
that
like the
there's
splitting the bill.
I'd trust me. I'd go eat Korean barbecue, no chicken,
Right?
with a woman I love, as opposed to all of y'all, even if we split the bill.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's sometimes, like, okay, both of us, you know, we
Yeah.
wouldn't be driving Lexuses if we had, like, you know what I'm saying?
that part.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
It's
that's remember when I said, right? Like you got I get to this point, you know, and I like meet the wrong person, and next thing you know, you're back
Yeah.
to square one. I totally get that, but it's just like, you know, sometimes I personally,
He's still open to love, guys.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
still open to
I'm still open to,
my legs are
just
open.
not right now.
just not right now. But it's also because, like you said, like, you know, I don't want to go back to that space. Like, I know my worth. I know what I bring to the relationship or whatever the case may be. And after the person I was with, I recently, after we broke up, I literally, I didn't want to heal the same way I did after I left my ex-husband. So after, you know, my little depression phase, I started doing the work. I started doing the self-helps, the reflecting, what could I have done better? What was it about the relationship? Like, all these things I started to do to heal myself. So again, if, you know, a relationship did come, maybe if you're out there,
If you're out there.
if you're out there somewhere, did come my way, then I would be healed for, that time. So
I will tell you this. Like, I know that you were asking about traumatic experience in a past relationship. Not really. I think that my priorities changed because out of all of the relationships that I've ever been in, me losing a significant other, not that they died or anything.
I know.
All,
I'm like,
no.
That's
It's
sad.
like for us going through breakups, all of those combined don't feel as bad as the time which I'm currently going through. My daughter's car is broken and I can't afford to buy her a new one. And me falling short as a dad has been like tenfold worse than
Going
me
through a
falling
heartache.
falling short as a significant other.
I can see that.
I just thought of something. So I saw this quote this meme. What's her name? Tia and Tamara Mori, the twins, right? So she had posted a quote that said, "I know I'll find love again," right? Because she's recently broken up with, like, it was a big thing on the internet, like her and her man broke up, whatever. I can't remember which twin it was, but one of them. And she tweeted that, like, "I will find love again." And there was a bunch of people in the comments, and one person in particular rebutted with, like, "Girl, you are in your fucking 50s, 40s, whatever her age is," and they're like, "and you got kids, like, shut the fuck up. You should have just stayed. You're too old," So do you guys feel like there's an age range, like, okay, say you've had an unhealthy marriage until you were like 60, would you be like, just fucking stick it out, you're already old? Or are you still under the mentality of like, well, if you're unhappy, it doesn't matter how old you are?
No, go live your best life. Get the fuck out.
Did you see that old man that divorced his wife because he found out like 30 years later she had slept with somebody else and he divorced her?
Ultimate
He was
betrayal.
like 75 or something like that.
No,
So this is this is how I read it. I think that she's wrong 100% because she said, "I'll find love again." No, you leave that person because you'll do better on your own or without them, not because you think that you're going to be able to find somebody to replace them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I get that to an extent, because
So
I
she should-
definitely had the mentality of like, I'd rather be alone than with a fucked up other love. You
Well,
know what I mean?
I just don't think that
But
she
she's
should
not
be like,
saying
"Oh,
that
I'll
she's gonna
find
someone
love
fucked up
again." What's up?
But she's not saying she's going to find somebody fucked up again. Like, she's looking
No,
for
she said that she thinks that she'll find love again. It's like, no, just be okay with not being in this relationship. That's what.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
but I think it's just another way to mask it though. Like, just say it just so that it feels a little better. Like, it gives you a little bit of like solace.
It's probably because it was retweetable or
Yeah,
some
that
shit.
too.
I
That
don't know.
too.
I feel like I say that to myself. It's one of my affirmations.
Yeah.
I say it to myself. I will find love again, and I truly believe that. So I don't know. I don't think she was wrong for.
Yeah, maybe
saying
that's like a
that.
female perspective, but
Yeah.
I didn't understand everybody in the fucking comments like, "Shut
Yeah,
up,
I don't-
bitch," like they
Yeah,
were like,
like,
"Shut up,
why
bitch,
are
you're too
you-
old for that shit."
I think you could say it, but you can't say it like 3 weeks after. You
It
know what I'm
hasn't
saying?
been
No, it's
3
no,
weeks.
it's
No,
been
no,
a while.
no,
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's a time, right?
Right.
Like, you can't like get a divorce, then like 2 weeks later be like, "Don't worry, guys, I'll find love again." And I'm like, "Huh? Okay." Maybe like a couple months later,
Yeah, I think it's been like a
least
year or
6
6 or
months to
yeah,
a
it's been a
year.
while. And she had tweeted that like,
Yeah.
the exact quote now that I remember it, "I know love will find its way to me again." That's what it was. Not "I'll find love again." "I know love will find its way to me again."
Why does it have to be like put out there though?
Because she's a famous person and
Say
that's
it
what
to
they
yourself.
I know, but they want like, you know how it is,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
They-
do. Well, and they're trying to be like motivational, obviously, like because there's women out there that are fucking divorced that are also telling
Why'd you
themselves
point to me?
Like,
why I got to come over this
because
way?
you're a
No,
woman
I'm just
and you're
kidding.
divorced.
I am.
And that
I am.
and you just said you do the self affirmations because I see
I do.
like I could see myself like if that was to ever happen, God forbid, like be like say shit like that too, just to help myself feel better. Really, if I'm being honest, But I see what you're saying where you're like, well, why the fuck do you have to post
Yeah.
it? I get that too, but
But I also say if it doesn't come my way, I am okay with being by myself.
right.
That's it.
I don't know. I post
do
a lot
say
of
that.
I post a lot of shit on Facebook and and Instagram.
tweeter?
Like I don't care. Like on Twitter too. Like
The tweet.
Well, here's the funny, here's for me, like sometimes I post shit that's completely, I just liked what it said, you know,
Yeah.
and it's not even what's happening in my life. I'm like, oh, that's good. Or, oh, that happened in my
Oh,
past. That's
Lord.
relatable, you know?
I can't post anything without someone being like, "Was this about me?"
Yeah.
No, I just liked it.
Right, exactly. Or that resonated for me back in the day or something
Yeah,
like that.
like-
Yeah.
See, I don't post shit anymore. And what I have is I have multiple Instagram accounts, and I just send, like, if I see something that's funny, I'll just send it to my other Instagram account. So I have a playlist of all the funny shit that I see.
I do have multiple Instagram accounts.
Yeah.
Though.
I have two.
I have 3, but there's a reason behind my madness. Like I have one that's my, everyone has this one. It's like my party one. It's, you know, all this. Then I have one that's of my kids. You know, that's my personal
Come on.
page.
Mrs. Zach, right? Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
Ari,
not
that's
like
mine. Mhm.
no, not too many people
Know
are
that
on
one.
that one.
Right.
Like I barely have friends on that because you have to really know me. Like everybody who's on that page, I know you. Like
Exactly,
personally
same. Yeah.
know you. You know. And then I have my makeup page. So
Same.
yeah.
Makeup lifted. I have the same 3.
Yeah.
Same categories. Everybody, family, business.
Right.
Yep.
Like I even had to tell you guys to stop tagging the other one. Remember initially? I
Oh,
was like,
yeah,
don't
yeah.
don't tag that
Yeah,
one. That's
yeah.
my personal one.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
would tag my other one. I was like, don't tag that one.
Yeah.
Yep. I
Tag
don't want
this
people to
one.
find me. Yeah, I remember when I didn't know that I had done that on my Mrs. Ackright one. I was like, follow Makeup Lifted personal page, like blah, blah, blah. I didn't even think about it. I was just like writing it. And all these random motherfuckers started trying to add me on the family one. I was like, all right, taking that information off because I don't
Yeah.
want people to know my fucking family and
Yeah.
see my kids and shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one Instagram account that nobody has. It's like, and I tell everybody what it is, and they never find it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about that later because
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to know now. All right. Well, I think we have discussed a lot of our trauma.
Yeah.
My trauma just walked into the door a couple of minutes ago.
Jeez.
This was supposed to be a quick episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
The
okay.
next one's gonna have to be quick.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot we still
Quickies.
have we're
We
going
should
to
talk about quickies.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Just
there
kidding.
we go.
Yes.
All right. So, thank you guys
Master-
so
My
much for tuning in.
expertise. Are
Two
we-
pump chump.
To pump chump. Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in. I'm sorry if we traumatized you more. And thank you guys, everybody on my team, for sharing your traumas and being open and transparent as me and everybody here, because I know it's not easy to talk about life shit all the time. But follow us if you want some real raw doggy, transparent ass type
No
shit.
lube.
Yep.
Read a book.
Read a book, like he says. So thank you for following us. Remember to hit up Mikey's Meals if you want any meal preps for yourself. Hit up the Pixel Studio,
Pixel Lounge.
Pixel Lounge Studio. That's what I meant to say. If you want studio time for photography, podcasting, different things like that. Queer Rich is the algorithm YouTube guru, so you can always get him for consultations, not free.
Right.
And then
Unless you got titties.
I don't think I've ever talked about Jasmine, she does makeup and much more. So if you guys want those kind of services, me and Jasmine, we hit up the makeup game together. So you need weddings, whatever, hit us up, you know. Is there anything else I'm forgetting?
No, that's all.
That's it. So we will catch you guys on the next one.
Bye.
And $2